Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, good afternoon. We got 12 on the dot, and I am very, very exciting. I'm exciting, I hope, but I'm excited to get to talk to all of you today. And it's so nice to see everybody out there. Love the new hairdo, Robin. That's wonderful. And I get to see all your beautiful faces. This is almost like being together. Well, maybe not really, but um, I'll tell you, I'm really excited about this because this has been a 21-year journey for me. And I am of the belief that, if something bad happens to you, if you survive, maybe make it a good thing. And that's actually a very healing type of thing. It's basically finding the meaning in what you do. And we're going to talk a lot about that over the next 6 months. And I'm assuming that people that are here, you want to basically have better mental health, right? I mean, that's what we want. And we want our people to have better mental health. And I just had a meeting with a potential client this morning. We're going to be doing some training for them. So real happy about it. And we're going to be doing sexual harassment training. And I said, this is perfect because the world of sexual harassment training is moving towards what we're going to talk about in here today. In 2016, the EEOC came out and said, we are at crisis mode. Now, freeze right here. This is going to tie in to what we're talking about here today. And you've got several ways to communicate. One of them is you feel free to open your mic at any time and chat and talk me up. Absolutely. I kind of make this stuff up as I go along anyway, so it's not like you're going to throw me. And I love to hear people talk. It's almost like we're there. So you can also chat me up and everybody can see in the chat what is happening. And these little reaction buttons down here, you can hit. I'm just really getting used to these over the last couple of years. You can find all kinds of little emojis in there. Okay, now let's just take this. The EEOC said in 1994 or in 2016 that 94% of all the women in the workplace today have been sexually harassed or they have seen sexual harassment. How many people think, yeah, that's about right? Anybody agreeing with that? Yeah, see how easy this is when I can see everybody just raise your hands and yeah, there we go. Is that? Yeah, look at all the thumbs going up here. Look at all this, okay? Oh, thanks for putting this together. I love doing this. And actually, you're going to see why more and more of my practice has been this type of stuff. We getting a comment here that yes, that this is pretty accurate. We're getting a great comment in here that Melinda's saying much higher than I would think. Yeah, but think about this, 94%. You know what the EEOC said? If what's the source of this data? Jerry, what a great question. The 2016 harassment report from the EEOC. That's right from the EEOC itself. Massive study that they did. And it's all available online. And you know what one of the EEOC people said? If you are sexually harassed at work, keep your mouth shut. Don't report it. Find another job. How many people are shocked over that? I'm going to give you my best horrified emoji. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Getting a great question mark from Nick. That's horrible. Joe saying it's horrible. Yes, absolutely. But this is why we're here. This is why we're here. If you have not read this report, it's amazing. A lot of it goes on. It's kind of dull, but I'll send you the slides. I'm going to make a little note here. I'm going to send you the 2016 slides that I put together that say, hey, this should be in your harassment training because we got to start preventing harassment and bullying in the workplace. And when it happens, we have got to deal with it. Okay, got a great comment here. Seems typical to a lot of offenses these days. Yes, it's not safe. Tara, thank you. Everybody's seeing the chat here. If 94% of the women in the workplace have had this issue, where are they supposed to go? That's the shame, isn't it? You have no place to go. You have no place to go. And I will tell you right now, I settled a case every so often, and this is not good for my mental health, I will tell you, and I've paid the price for that. When I get really torqued off, I take cases pro bono. I'm not allowed to do that anymore, and I'll show you my brain scans here in a few minutes as to why. Okay, my depression actually is a little worse than it was 10 years ago. Okay, a lot of the rest of the stuff is cleared up. But I will tell you right now, I advised a client to settle her case. The reason being is the reason being is her hair was falling out. She was having intestinal problems, bleeding. Okay, let me tell you right now, if your hair is falling out, if you're having intestinal problems because of distress, your brain has already been damaged. Everybody hearing me? You've already suffered brain damage. Jerry's telling me, seems to be poorly worded. If you ask me if I had something happen to me over the course of my lifetime versus the last 3 to 5 years, it'd be a different answer. Yeah. And Jerry's also putting, are we solving the problems of today or 25 years ago? I believe the question they asked of all different women of all ages and everything was, have you ever been sexually harassed in the workplace? And the result from actually one of the EEOC consultants from the University of Michigan said, if you are harassed today in the workplace, keep your mouth shut, because they will make your life hell. They'll get you. Okay, this is the state of affairs for today. Now, let's summarize all this stuff up. If you are being harassed at work for any way or bullied, is that going to affect your mental health? And I'll just raise my hand here. How many people think that's going to affect your mental health? You are absolutely right. And I'm here to tell you this has been my sequence for the last several books. The books that I put together are actually one book. It's a trilogy. And I think you're going to see this today more than what a lot of other people see. Okay. And this is where I'm driving everything home, because my next book is going to be Healing the Human Brain. But it all started back in 2019 when I wrote the book, Solve Employee Problems Before They Start. That focuses on emotional intelligence and EPR, which is addressing and resolving conflict. You're going to see some of that in here today. Then last year was Living the 5 Skills of Tolerance. All right. It's all about tolerance, which is now a legal issue. And I'm going to go way off the rails from what you're learning from HR and diversity people. Okay. The original title for this was Tolerance and Diversity for White Guys and Other Human Beings. Okay. Now freeze right there. Is diversity more than race and religion? Isn't it? Yeah. It's more than race or religion. Okay. And I will tell you right now, I love this session, Healing the Human Brain, because we're going to talk about the intolerance that is in your life that will absolutely drive you crazy. We're getting some really great, wonderful comments here in the chat. I'm not going to be able to keep up with them all, but I really, really love what you're putting in here. Kathy's telling us, I have a friend who had a customer say some very crude things to her in an email. Her HR person told her it was because she looked hot in her professional headshot. Take it as a compliment. Oh my God. Okay, freeze right there. How many people think that HR person should just be fired? Give you my thumbs up there. Oh my gosh. Okay, unfortunately, Kathy, I've heard that a few times. Okay, Mendy is telling us, I dealt with sexual harassment earlier this year with myself and did report it, but the whole process is very, very demoralizing, very difficult. Absolutely. So, and I'll tell you, the #1 charge filed with the EEOC last year and for the 3 previous years is retaliation. Okay. So you kind of see how this is all coming together. Okay. We are going to look at your mental health. And I will tell you point blank, if you are not creating environments where it's safe to speak up, it's safe to be different, your people will have mental disorders, and you will have mental disorders. Now, let's look and see what's happening in the world today. Okay. Is this the norm? In today, I don't know if we're coming out of COVID or we're going back into it or whatever. Is this how we resolve conflict? Is this what your people do when they're going to have a discussion on abortion, on the political agenda? And I will tell you right now, this idea of keeping politics out of the workplace is just naive. Whatever happens in the world right now is going to be in your workplace tomorrow. Oh, Nikki's telling us, I volunteered at the EEOC in Los Angeles, and retaliation is almost always attached to a complaint. Thank you, Nikki. You are so right. Yeah, I like Beverly's comment here. This looks like my son's communicating. Yeah, the world is going out of control. And I'm going to drive this home for you. Why? You've got to make sure that you're creating safe environments. More social media attacks than physical attacks. Yes. And I will tell you right now, this social media attack, psychological attack, is worse than a physical attack. And I'll show you why. Okay, what are our workplaces like? In 2007, Gallup poll set the world on fire when it came out with this. 77% of all Americans say they hate their job. Hate. Not that they don't like it. They'd rather chew off a little finger than go into work. That right there is killing you. That is the number one health threat in your life. Psychological attacks, it's worse than smoking. It's worse than not exercising. It's worse than eating wrong. Okay. Yeah, I love this. Love the job, hate the politics of the office. Yeah, I got you. I'm with you 100%. And you take all these comments. This is what's happening in our workplaces. Staff Squared came out and said that 85% of all employees hate their job. And Janice is going, yeah, it's not the work, it's the drama. This is the way it always is. So hold that thought. It's not the work, it's the people. 70% of all Americans say they're miserable at work. And that is, that's not any good either. Okay. 2018, Gallup poll did a follow-up, and they found out that only about 34% of all Americans come into work every day and do the best they can. Okay. The rest are doing just enough not to get fired, and 13% are actively sabotaging you. They're spitting in your chili. They're rude to customers, actively doing this to you. Now, this was just the end of last year. I'm not telling you, the alarms are going off. 75% of all employees, according to HRexecutive.com, have been bullied or witnessed bullying at work. I think it's higher than that. Oh, we're getting another good comment here. I feel one of the largest challenges in the HR world is not having the support of leadership owners when we are only trying to do what's right. Very frustrating. You are so right, Danica. That is exactly correct. And we want to establish environments that are safe. And I'll tell you, a lot of you here are from the public sector. I purposely sent out a lot of notices to the public sector folks out there, because if you work in the public sector in the state of Ohio and retire through OPERS, you've got a 75 to 80% chance of retiring on psychiatric medications for the rest of your life. Get what I'm saying? You have damaged your brain so badly because of the environment that you're forced to work in, and we don't change these. That's a problem. Okay. And yeah, sometimes we're getting these great comments here that HR is the bully. That's right. Workplace bullying remains a wildly out of control epidemic in the United States. And that's from the Workplace Bullying Institute. And this was all from December of 2021. So now here it is. Do you think most people hate their job because of the technical things they're doing, because of the work, or is it the people? People, there you go. It's the people, and these are the bullies that we'll be talking about. Look at the chat. We're getting all kinds of people. We are our own worst enemy. Nikki's giving us a great one. Executives treat us as the redheaded stepchild, HR. That's right. And so we've got to start getting these principles in place. And I just use the public sector as an example because, first of all, it's so easy to get those types of numbers. It's public record. But that's true of the rest of us in the private sector. And you've got these little bullies that we'll be talking about. We've got to make sure that we're changing our culture. And let me just sum it up. Just sum it up here. Trust. Trust. What is trust? Is it safe? Is it safe to come to work? And the client or the potential client I was talking to this morning about their harassment, is it safe for your fingers and toes? Is it safe to come into work and I'm not going to get COVID? People are keeping the germs cleaned up and everything. But is it safe to be different? Is it safe to speak up? Is it safe to be white? Is it safe to be black? Is it safe to have an opinion on Obama, on Reagan, on whatever? And I'll tell you, I get attacked all the time. And I'll tell you right now, it's because I chose to go and do a lot of tolerance training, which I thought it was a good thing. I thought it was a good thing. No one should be discriminated against. No one should be discriminated against because of your age, your race, your religion, because you're Republican or Democrat. I thought that was good because if you are getting picked on, it doesn't matter what your demographics are, you got a human brain. And these mental disorders that we are all suffering from know no boundaries. They do not honor borders, genders. And it was really interesting. I sent out so many free invitations to this because I'm really excited about it, because I want to give people hope. First of all, you got to make sure that you are working in an environment that is safe. And if that is not true, you expect to have mental disorders. It is the single greatest threat to you. Okay. And there's all kinds of things we're going to talk about in this series as to how you get a healthy brain. What do you do? Okay. And I've got evidence here to show you that it works. I had one organization, an African-American organization, that actually reached out to me back in February about working together. And I said, great, I'd love to. And then when it went up to the top brass and they saw that I'm white, they got back to me and I talked to them and they said, we only support Black-owned businesses. And I said, okay, but you've got to understand, I'm not charging for these things. I want people to hear this message. You kind of see, when we think of tolerance and diversity, we think of race and religion. I don't. I think of how healthy is your brain. Yeah, a lot of psychosomatic complaints. Yeah, hold that thought for next time, Janice, because we're going to look at how heart disease is your greatest threat are the bullies around you. Again, worse than smoking. Okay, so here's what I want you to remember as we go through today's materials. Baseball. First base. If you want to create a safe environment, get to third base where there's trust, you've got to have emotional intelligence. That means nothing good happens with children. And this is what I want you to start working on in your organization, putting this diagnostic diagram in place. If anything ever goes wrong in a relationship, it was something in this diagram. The first one we're going to look at is emotional intelligence, and that's probably about 80% of the problem right there. We act like children. And I'm going to look at tolerance today. And I'm going to look at tolerance very differently than what you've heard from HR associations. Okay? And if you can do that, then you get to second base, which is EPR, empathic listening, parroting, and rewards. That right there. You've got to remember that this is what we're shooting for. And what is the final biggest payoff? You get to remain sane. Sane. Okay. So what is emotional intelligence? Can you control your ego and emotions? Very simple. Okay, now freeze right there. How many people, whoever's got their, can you turn that off, please? Thank you. Now, think about this. How many folks out there on a given day, you think that you work with children? How many people are working with children on a daily basis? Yeah, go with that every day, every day. Okay. I'll tell you, most days you are all, yeah. My whole practice is dealing with children. Sometimes I'd rather work with children. Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm really selling the children short. Absolutely. I don't insult the children. Do you have self-control? Oh, and I'll tell you, there's a whole course. Well, we've talked about this before. We can do a whole afternoon on emotional intelligence, but you got to build relationships. Now, let's look at emotional intelligence and tolerance. If you show me an emotional child, I will show you someone who is intolerant. Someone who is intolerant. And you know what that means? They have probably been flooding their brain and damaged their brain when they bully other people. Now, what is tolerance? I get this right from NASA. And this woman, Sharon Wong, I think is just brilliant. And this is the model that I follow. I follow the NASA model. After NASA blew 2 space shuttles out of the air because they knew it was wrong, but the people who spoke up got fired. So freeze right there. Is it safe to speak up at NASA? I mean, you just saw what happened to your buddies. I'm going to give you my big evil emoji there. It's not safe. So here's what it means to be tolerant. And think about this. She was able to change the entire culture. It's an entirely different place by putting the diagnostic diagram in place, emotional intelligence, EPR. I'm not going to pick on you because you're different. Now, everybody think about that. I'm not going to freeze on you. I'm not going to pick on you because you're black, because you're white, because you're Asian, because you're Republican. Now, tolerance today is a legal term, okay? The Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals has specifically adopted tolerance as the standard, which means I am not going to tell you how to think. I'm not going to ever tell you to be accepting of someone who's different. I'm going to tell you how to behave. The EEOC in 2016 adopted this, okay? Now, by the way, if you have not changed your harassment training to be in compliance with that 2016 paper, those guidelines, you're not in compliance. You're not in compliance. Why? Because you want to prevent things. And in 2020, the United States Supreme Court, when it granted protected class status to gender stereotyping and transgender status, gender identity, and sexual orientation, it said that you need to be tolerant. And now, how many people have ever heard from a diversity person or whatever, they'd say, well, I don't want to be tolerated. That's offensive. Have you ever heard that one? I get that all the time, okay? And I'm like, well, you've got to define your terms. And quite frankly, when the EEOC and the United States Supreme Court and the circuit courts are saying, this is the legal standard you need to follow, and here's what it means, you follow that. You don't, this is not optional. It's not like you can say, well, I don't really want to do what the EEOC is saying. Then you better be prepared to find another job. Okay, so let's play with this. And I'm telling you right now, yeah, we are taught tolerance, acceptance, then appreciation. I'll tell you, Jim, that's exactly what you're taught. And hold on to that thought, because I'll tell you, you go up to someone who's Muslim and you tell them that they have to be accepting of another religion or something that contradicts their religion, you better hope I don't hear about it. That is a case I would take. Well, really, my doctor says I'm not allowed to do that anymore. But I will tell you point blank, it's illegal. And I'll tell you, this is one of my big bugaboos with a lot of HR teachings and a lot of diversity people. You sit down and you tell people you have to be accepting of this. Is that person going to cooperate? No. Tolerance is not acceptance. And let me just give you a little hint here. You demand tolerance. You build acceptance. As you get to know other people, you will accept them. And think right here, Jim, keep this in mind because that is such a good point. Let me ask you a serious question. Does an employer have a right to tell you what to believe? What do you think? You have to be accepting of Satanists and Satan. No. Now you kind of see? Now right away, can you see how you're going to alienate your people and your program is not going to work? It's not going to work. Get in the real world, folks. And understand, I've had to train neo-Nazis. You do not get neo-Nazis to control their behavior by telling them how to think. But you tell them, hey, this is how you're going to behave. You are not going to go to Nazi rallies. You are not going to hurt this company. All right. So let me give you an example. And Jim, I want you to think of that excellent point you made there. I got this lesson, oh my God, a decade or so ago. I got a call from a company and they got nailed by the EEOC on harassment. Okay, it was actually harassment of people who were Latino. Okay, so they brought in a diversity quote expert. Okay, great. The diversity expert did this training for them and then said, hey, we are serious about this. Everyone here has to be accepting of other people's differences. Okay, sounds okay. Because they then wanted to show the EEOC that everybody had been to the training and everybody had to sign an acknowledgement that they were going to be accepting of other people's differences. Okay, well, I had about these 5 guys and they were Muslim and they wouldn't sign the paper, or the company had. And the diversity person went in there and tried to convince them that they had to be accepting of other people. And they said, no, we're not going to sacrifice our beliefs. Okay. So I got a call and I heard the situation. So I go in, meet with them. This was pre-COVID, way pre-COVID. So I go in, I sit down with them and I use my EPR skills. Okay. Now let me tell you, the only time you build trust with another human being is when you are in conflict. Now think about that. If you have supervisors who say things like, oh, I just can't handle conflict, I can't do that. Okay, I understand. I truly do. What other position in this organization would you like? Because you cannot supervise people anymore. So when you are in a conflict, now think of the emotional intelligence, think of first base, got to keep yourself calm. Okay, I got to stay calm. If I'm going to think, I got to stay calm. So I sit back and I use my empathic listening skills. And I say, tell me what's going on. It's that simple. I shut up. This is empathic listening. This is respect. You got to define your terms. Now, these are 5 guys who are actually from the Mideast. They were not born here. They're immigrants. They were pretty much raised in another country. They are Muslim. Okay. Now, do you think they see the world different than I do, a 50-year-old white Anglo-Saxon Protestant Christian male? Raised in the United States? Oh, absolutely. So empathic listening is the same thing as active listening, but I've got to go a step further and twist my head and look at things from their perspective. So I shut up and say, tell me what's happening. I got to listen. Okay. And here's what they tell me. They say, well, you know, there are a lot of homosexuals who work here. We have clients who are homosexuals. Our religion tells us that we are not to condone, we are not to approve of homosexuality. And if we do, we're going to go to hell. It's a mortal sin. And anybody who's familiar with Judaism, Christianity, and Muslims or Islam, they understand that Islam is a hardline religion when it comes to homosexuality. You will find factions and divisions of Judaism and Christianity that will be accepting of homosexuality, not in Islam. And so you understand what they're saying? They're saying, if we sign this piece of paper, we are saying that we are condoning and we're approving of homosexuality. And we're going to go to hell. Okay. So now listen, I'm listening to what they're saying. They say things that are different than what I hear because we just have different ways of perception. I've got to parrot it back. So I'm going to parrot it back to them. I'm going to say, okay, guys, let me make sure I got this. You're telling me that you can't sign this paper to send back to the EOC because you believe that if you sign this paper, that you are saying that you are accepting of homosexuality and you're going to burn in hell. Do I understand? If they say no, then I say, well, tell me again later, or tell me again. So I do understand. But they said, yes, you've got it. Okay. Now think about this. This is a heck of a choice, isn't it? You got your job over here, which is important. You want to keep it. But then you got hell over here. And how many people think hell is bad? I think hell's bad. That's why they call it hell. Okay, nobody goes on vacation and say, oh yeah, I'm going to hell. No, it's a terrible, terrible thing. Okay, freeze right here. Do you see their point? I'm going to give me a thumbs up here. Does everybody see what they're coming from? I don't really have to give them a reward. I only give somebody a reward when I disagree with them. If I disagree with them, I'd say, well, look, I see what you're saying. You have a right to your opinion, but you're going to have to sign this paper. But I'm not going to say that here. I'm going to say, you're right. I agree with you. We do not have a right to tell you what to believe. Now, freeze right there, my friends. Does anybody here see the legal issue involved with telling these 5 Muslim guys, tell these guys, well, you have to sign this. You have to change your beliefs. Does anybody see a legal issue here? You're going to get sued and you're going to lose. Okay. So, oh, no. I am here to tell you, fine. What if we change the paper? What if we changed it to say that you are going to be tolerant of other people, that you are not going to pick on them or bully them or persecute them because they're different? And they said, oh yeah, we'd do that. We'd do that. See, I don't have a right to tell somebody what to think. I tell them how to behave. And that's where everything just went just fine. It was no problem. As long as I was telling them how to behave. And we got a good quote here from Beverly. As a Christian from a Christian family, we are taught that you hate the sin, but love the sinner. Yeah, because that's fine. But understand, from their perspective and what they believe their religion says, you're telling them how to think. Are we making it safe for these 5 Muslim guys to have their own opinion? I don't think so. Now, think about this. What happens? He's got Bozo the Clown here. Some of us had these growing up, particularly if you're older. If you punch Bozo in the face, what will he do? What will happen if you punch him in the face? He comes back. Absolutely. Okay, so what do? You punch him harder. Hit him harder. So you hit him harder. What's he going to do now? You just hit him harder. He's coming back harder. Okay, so you kind of see, I want your programs to work. I don't want you to start new programs. This should be part of your harassment training. Building a safe environment. Yeah, it squeaks when it comes back, doesn't it, Beverly? You hit him right in the nose. And this should be part of your safety program. You don't order people how to think. That's called boomerang bigotry. Okay, you throw a boomerang at somebody, it's going to come back at you. And I will tell you, this is one part where diversity programs alienate your people. you do more harm than good. And the truth of the matter is, you demand tolerance. That means if you are stabbing somebody in the back, you are attacking somebody, you and I are going to coach. We're going to have a talk. I'm going to use my EPR skills. And then if you do it again, I'm going to talk to you again. Do it again, you get in a written warning. You do it again, I will fire you. Absolutely. You demand tolerance. You build acceptance. As you get to know people, you do become accepting. We're going around back asswards. You do not demand acceptance. And it's kind of funny. I had one diversity person say, oh, well, we demand approval. Okay, that sounds like a synonym to me. It sounds like the same thing to me. But you see, you don't have a right to tell people how to think. Does that make sense? Okay, now, can intelligent people disagree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And actually, isn't that more fun than talking about the weather? And I got a lot of folks here. I mean, I've known so many of you for so long, and we got a lot of new friends. I love that. Meeting new people. I will tell you, I have friends who are far right and far left and in the middle. Wonderful. You got a right to your opinion. Now, right there. Is that true in the world today? Yeah. I love the chuckle out there. It isn't true. This is what you got to overcome. So I'm going to sit down at lunch, but you are assuming that those in charge are operating from a sound mind. Oh, Janice, thank you so much. Everybody see Janice's comment? Actually, let me be very, very clear here. Emotional intelligence assessments. And let me just kind of tell you, I do a lot of coaching. And actually, some of your people right now, I'm coaching some of your people right now. Actually, two of you here, I have sent your executives to go get brain scans. I don't know weird when I see it. I'm not a doctor, but I know weird when I see it. And I'll tell you right now, everybody that I've sent over the last 14 years to go get brain scans, and that's about 50 people, they've all come back with serious mental disorders. And I'll show you my serious mental disorders here in a few minutes. And that's what we're going to talk about, how to prevent them, how to cure them, and improve them. Okay. So no, actually, the truth of the matter is, Janice, most people who score low on emotional intelligence assessments are CEOs. Overwhelmingly. Believe it or not, lower than lawyers. And lawyers are pretty low. You can't tell a lot of lawyer stuff. Okay. So no, the truth of the matter is you try to put these things in place. And when people realize, and that's what we're going to get to next, the health concerns, they do want to change. Because most people that you know are on a handful of psychiatric medications every day. That's the norm. Okay. So Trump and Biden, or pro-life, pro-choice. We're going to sit down at your lunchroom and we're going to have a good conversation about Roe versus Wade, which is real hot in the news today. Is somebody going to get a fork in the head? I'll give you my thumbs up. What do you think? Is it a good idea to sit down and talk about those things? Jim's telling us, if we all simply agree to get along, we probably won't solve any difficult problems. It's painful, isn't it, Jim? But that's how we get to better solutions. Okay, let me tell you. The world you live in today is doing everything wrong, and it's killing us. So if I sit down and give my opinion, on Trump, okay, someone that I like Trump, let's just say, someone from the far, 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 far left is going to attack me, aren't they? Like I don't have a right to like Trump. So someone from the far, far left is going to come all the way around 180 degrees. And let's say that I just love Biden. I love Biden. Let's say someone from the far, far left.
I can't hear anything.
Yeah. Let me see here. Somebody's going. There we go. Okay. Someone from the far, far right is going to attack me. Now think about it. Is that going to damage you? Is that bullying?
Mm-hmm.
That is good old-fashioned bullying. Okay. Beverly's telling us, I feel it's gotten to the place where you are afraid to voice your opinion on any hot topic. You are so right, Beverly. And that is exactly what driving us crazy. And I'll tell you, Patricia's saying perception is reality in that person's mind,
Totally the Zoom.
in that person's mind. And we've got to get a handle on that, because just because you don't like Biden doesn't mean other people can't. And because you don't like Trump, anything. Now think about this. If you can't talk about politics and religion, something that's not going to affect you right now, how can you ever talk to someone about their job? You couldn't. You couldn't. Because your job is highly emotional and it's going to affect you right now. Okay. Everybody with me? Yeah, if everybody could mute themselves if you're not going to be talking, that would be great. I'll tell you, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. Because other people have a right to their opinions. And if you don't do this, what we're saying right here, if you don't establish a culture that complies with the EEOC's guidelines, that is safe, where it's okay to have your opinion voiced and be different, you can throw your mental health out right now. And the truth of the matter is, I love this little quote. Was that really offensive? Or are we so narcissistic today that no one can disagree with us? I think that's where we're heading. Now, let's get to where all of this mess, I want you to use this to get your people's opinions. And yes, we're going to record this. I'm going to post this. You're all going to get a copy to the link. And we want to make sure that everyone is hearing this message, because I really believe that most people don't realize when they are bullying or they're creating these unsafe environments that they are killing themselves. And we're going to talk about that next time as well. Okay, so have you ever noticed that when you get stressed, that you forget stuff? You just forget stuff. Well, yeah, we all do. Okay, here's why that is. And this is really critical. You're burning out your short-term memory. You're destroying it. Okay, so here's some of the mechanisms in your brain. Okay, you see those two little red balls? Those are your amygdalas. And let me tell you, we just discovered those in 1992. Took another 10 years or so to figure out what in the heck they really do. Now, freeze right there. We could not have had this discussion that we're having right now 10 years ago. This is the cutting edge of neuroscience. And I will tell you, use this to get buy-in, because I've never met anybody who wants to go crazy. Okay, so those two little balls right there, that's your fight or flight response. That is what sends you into fight or flight. That's when your gut starts to tighten up and you start to flood with adrenaline and cortisol. Okay, you see what's actually attached to your amygdalas, your fight or flight response? Your short-term memory, your hippocampus. It is sitting right behind it. So all those little neurons, see those little dendrites that catch your thoughts? And those little axons that send your thoughts? They feel like soft, room temperature butter. Very fragile, very fragile. So think about this. You go into fight or flight, your gut tightens up because someone's bullying you or picking on you. And then, of course, the problem is that you think about that later and your gut tightens up 2, 3, 4 days later, or 3 months later, or 2 or 3 in the morning, you wake up and you're upset. You're flooding your system with adrenaline and cortisol. What's going to happen? You're going to burn those little buttery dendrites with gasoline. When you are flooding your brain from distress, you are burning your brain. And let me tell you, you feel it when it's your short-term memory. Okay? So you see the problem here. Now, let me make this very clear. A lot of Americans start to lose their short-term memory at 40, 50. Certainly by the time you're 60, start to say, oh, I'm just getting old. No. You live in a society where we treat our brains like soccer balls. Your neurons in your short-term memory and the rest of your brain have a lifespan of 120 years. You get that? Your body isn't going to hold out for 120 years. You should never lose your short-term memory. If someone says, hey, I'm just getting older, losing my short-term memory, that's normal, they don't know what they're talking about. That is not true. You should be like Betty White. You should have your short-term memory right up until you fall over dead. Okay? Oh, do you ever wonder why you keep your long-term memory but lose your short-term memory? Because your long-term memory is all back up here in the back of your parietal lobe in the top of your head. Your short-term memory is right down here with all the chemicals. This is what the bullies and psychological bullying does to you. Now, let's get real serious here. If you can damage your short-term memory, could you damage other parts of your body or of your brain?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I got two brains here. I got a nice, normal, healthy one on your left and one that is deeply, deeply disturbed on the right. So let's look and see. You're laying down. Let me explain what you're looking at. You're laying down in the nuclear SPECT scan. Now, this is very different. You actually cannot get nuclear SPECT brain scans in the state of Ohio. Closest place to get them are in Reston, Virginia, or Chicago. Okay. What we're talking about now is above and beyond the standard of care. Okay. And there are states where if the doctor practices psychiatry above the standard of care, they can lose their license. So pretty sad. Now, this is someone laying down in the machine on their back, and you're looking through the bottom part of their chin, looking up at the ceiling. Okay. So everybody with me? You're looking at the underside of their brain. Now, the one on the left is normal. Okay. So everything in red is burning about 15% hotter, which is a lot. Okay. Everything in blue is your baseline temperature. Okay. So now the bottom there, you see the two big splotches. That's your cerebellum. You want that as hot as you can get it. Okay. That's good. And you see that little dot in the middle? This person has burned their limbic system a little bit. This is a 45-year-old guy. Well, 45-year-old guys don't sit around and giggle all day, right? I hope not. Okay. 5-year-olds do. I mean, they giggle all day. They'll giggle over anything. Kick them around for 40 years. This is what happens. Okay. So that's normal. And you see those two little guys? Okay. That's your apprehension. Those are actually called your basal ganglias. This is why you look both ways when you pull out into traffic. It's apprehension. That's a normal brain. Okay. Does the brain on the right look angry? Okay, let me tell you. That is my brain in 2008. Okay. And we'll talk more in detail later as to how I came about using SPECT scans. I actually started them to get one for my son with Asperger's autism in 2006. And in 2008, when I went back for his follow-up scans to see his progress, my wife insisted that I get a scan. She said, no, you're getting a scan or you're not coming home. I said, no, I don't need a scan. She goes, oh, no, you're nuts. You are crazy. Okay, now freeze right there. Who's got a spouse or someone that will tell you what's what? Anybody? You all need somebody in your life to tell you when you're crazy. Well, look at the normal scan on the left and look at my limbic system in the middle. That is like 10 times inflamed. That's full-blown depression. Now, how did I get that? I flooded my brain for years from being bullied, from working in environments. And I will tell you right now, working in environments where I should have told them to go to hell and I should have quit and left. Okay. Oh, and see those two? See the comparisons of the basal ganglias on the far left? Look at the right. I've got full-blown panic attacks. Oh, and look, mine is so bad. It's not just red hot, 15% hotter. I've burned it so bad, it's white hot. That's 20% hotter. Oh, and look at that guy. Okay, you see that? That is your corpus callosum. Your and look, I burned that so bad from flooding my brain from about the age of 3 or 4 years old. It's when my bullying started. Okay, and all the way through the rest of my life. Okay, what is obsessive compulsive disorder? Well, you've got this corpus callosum that connects your left and right hemispheres. So if you have a thought on your left side of your brain, it'll travel across to the right and back and forth. Okay, it goes across that bridge. Okay, that's why humans are bilateral. Horses are not bilateral. So if you cover up the left eye of a horse and get to know it, and then take off the cover and cover up the right eye, that horse will not know who you are because those thoughts didn't cross. Okay, now think about it. If you've inflamed that bridge, if you burned it, an electrical charge, your thought is going to try to go through. It's going to get stuck. Okay, so it gets stuck. Can't get off it, can't get off it, can't get off it, can't get off it. That is what we call obsessive compulsive disorder. Everybody with me?
Mm-hmm.
That diamond shape, that is typical in post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, I will tell you, if I had not learned all the things that I have learned, I am quite sure I would not still be alive today. This is why our soldiers are committing suicide. This is why the CDC said it's a national emergency for suicide in this country right now, and is the leading cause of death for kids between 14 and 21 or something like that. Now, when I say that all this stuff you see in the world today is wrong, I'm not kidding. Okay? So we do not want this. That diamond pattern will kill you. Okay, is everybody plenty good depressed right now? Okay, let me tell you, your brain, you can damage it, but look at my scan from 2020. See the difference? Okay, you do not want Scott from 2008 in your life. I don't want to be in my life. And I will tell you right now, I will never go back. I will never go back to where I was before. Now, freeze right here. Look at the one on the left. That's what 30% of the American workforce has actually been diagnosed with. PTSD. You public sector folks, that's what a lot of public sector employees have. A lot of it. And how'd they get that? From the constant flooding. Now, I would tell you, there are state agencies that are wonderful to deal with. There are state agencies that are, And I will tell you right now, there are state agencies where it's a recipe for suicide. You got to change the culture. And this right here, showing people as to what you are doing to your brain. And understand what I'm telling you. That cortisol and adrenaline is worse than smoking. You would never let someone smoke in your workplaces. But we let bullies go around and do this to us all the time because we don't realize what it's doing. Now, in my program, and I'll show you this stuff later, number one on my list of brain health is get as many jackasses out of your life as humanly possible. And make sure you got this. Working in an unsafe environment is your number one mental health threat and your number one health threat. And we do it to ourselves. And by the way, one thing that we have discovered is that flooding your brain with massive amounts of cortisol and adrenaline will give you the roots of Alzheimer's. Yes, massive amounts of cortisol from distress gives you Alzheimer's. And it will start to take root in your brain 30 or so years before you're symptomatic. And once you are symptomatic, there is no cure. Everybody hear what I'm saying? You can't fix a dead brain. They'll come up with a cure for Alzheimer's. Unless they come up with a brain transplant, no, they won't. So I get a lot of folks, oh my gosh, so I might have already started the condition of Alzheimer's. Oh yeah, that's true. Most people, absolutely. But it doesn't mean it has to progress to where you actually feel the symptoms. There's actually studies of nuns who they did autopsies on them, and they all had Alzheimer's. They all had Alzheimer's in their brain. None of them felt it. It didn't affect them at all. You know why? Because they changed the environment they lived in. They did a lot of the things that we're going to talk about in here for brain health. So guess what? It never progressed to the point that you even knew it. So who cares? And what's doing it to us? Bullies. You see, this is one of those things for effectuating change. I honestly don't believe most people know this. I think most people don't know that the way you treat other people is your number one health concern. It can either really benefit you or kill you. Because let me explain here. If your car doesn't start, that's very concerning. Your computer, oh my gosh, I love the stuff that I can do with computers, but I hate it when my computer doesn't do something. Okay, that will give you distress. No doubt about it. When you are bullied by another human being, psychologically or physically, you release 3 times the cortisol and adrenaline. 3 times. It's 3 times worse than if your computer won't start. And everybody knows that that is stressful. It's 3 times worse than having too much work to do. And let me tell you, the human body, and this was news to me, amazing the studies. Our bodies are not made for psychological distress. We don't know what to do with it. Our bodies know how to handle physical attack. When Fred Flintstone was running around ruling the earth 5, 6, 10,000 years ago, he was physically attacked. But once you're physically attacked, if you get killed, well, it's over. If you get away, you don't sit around and worry about it. Okay, your body goes into fight or flight. You're concerned with it, but your body goes into fight or flight, and that cortisol and adrenaline all dissipates. When you are psychologically bullied by somebody, there's no physical attack. So guess what? It keeps reliving in your brain. And we relive it again and again and again. It is actually worse to get psychological distress than to be physically attacked. And let me tell you, you got to get a handle on this, because one bully is too much. Attitudes are contagious, aren't they? Oh, let me tell you right now, our studies show that when you are bullied, let's say you are personally bullied at work this afternoon, you feel better. Your cortisol and adrenaline go down when you pick on somebody else. Now that's good for you, but what's that do for the environment? And that boomerang bigotry is going to come right back at you later. So you kind of see, does it make sense? It is much worse to have somebody yell at you or start picking on you in social media than to slap you. Everybody with me? So let's set this up for the next few weeks here. I want you to keep all this in mind. Eustress. I want a little bit of stress in your life. What's eustress? It's like this little kid here from a fountain. Okay, you're drinking from a hose. All right. It's like riding a roller coaster. That a little bit of distress or of eustress releases all kinds of positive chemicals, like riding a roller coaster, but you're only on a roller coaster for 2 or 3 minutes, right? What if you stayed on a roller coaster for 2 days? It would kill you. So when I say flooding, you're drinking water from a fire hydrant. And this is what's killing us in America today. And I will tell you right now, I am a big student of history. The aqueduct, the water line that came into Rome, was lined with lead. That drove the Romans crazy. You had 1 million people in Rome going crazy from lead poisoning in their brain. I think the same thing is happening in America right now, except we're doing it to each other. Okay, we can't change the world, but I'll tell you, I love that you're here. And I want you to take this information and understand, every time that you go into distress, particularly from another human being, you're flooding your body with adrenaline and cortisol, and I mean massive amounts. Okay. And here, but what if I work with good people? What if I work with supported people? And they're very, very accommodating. You release oxytocin, which is happiness. Dopamine, which directly combats depression. Serotonin, which is motivation. Endorphins, which kill pain. And telomerase. Telomerase actually makes you younger. It is very healthy for you to go to work with good, positive people. And that's good for them. Well, this is not what we're doing. The American Psychological Association has been tracking our distress levels since 2008. It's hired Harris Poll every year since 2008. The number one stressor in our lives that's destroying us is either work, and when they say work, they mean the bullies, or finances. It either switches back and forth. Okay. And I'll tell you, 2 years ago, the APA sounded the alarm. We are facing a mental health crisis. That was 2 years ago. We have snapped. We've gone beyond that. So I'll tell you, I don't know about you, but I am never going back to 2008. And here's what I want for you. I want you to have the brain that is healthy, the one on the right. Now, I'm still working on my depression, which is why I don't litigate cases anymore, because I get too personally involved. Okay, but I will tell you, there's a lot of things we're going to talk about for your health next week. If you know anyone at all who wants to hear these recordings, pass them on to them. If you know anybody at all that wants to sit in on these things, because I will tell you from a selfish standpoint, it releases a lot of eustress chemicals in my body when I can help other people with this. And that's really what I want to do. Okay. And I'll tell you, we can all do better. All right. So questions, comments, deep religious concerns over anything we talked about. Does it make sense? Well, here's your HRCI codes. They're actually in your handout for today. And anyone in Northeast Ohio you recommend for emotional tests? Oh, Janie, those are all digital. I do a lot of those all over the country. So if you want to give me a call, Janie, we'll talk about emotional intelligence testing and coaching. That's fine. So, thank you to everybody out there. Yeah, they're getting a lot of really good comments. Yeah, the brain scans, I actually work with my clients and I get them covered at about half because it's out of network. Okay. So, and there's your codes for SHRM. So, hey, we are up again next month and we're going to talk about more health issues to get more attention here. But you want to get buy-in from your people. You want your people to say enough is enough. And boy, am I glad that I work here. That's what you want. Okay. Hey, thank you for everybody out there. Wonderful to hear you. Next Lunch and Learn is going to be we're going to do the first Thursday at noon for the next 5 months. Okay. So any other questions, comments from anybody at all? The HRCI slide again? Sure thing. They're in your handout. If anybody did not get the handout, let me know and I will send it again. Actually, when I send you a notice of when I've posted the video, then I will send out the handout again as well. Okay. And hey, if you want to talk about any more of this stuff, and some of you, we're coming on site to do this type of training and your harassment training. We're going to be going on site to do that in the next couple of months. If you saw some things in here that you want to have added in there, yeah, give me a call because we can always adjust your program. And that's one of the nice things is there's so many ways to go. All right. So we want to make sure that we are getting your people on board, that they want to have a healthy work environment as much as you do. And I will tell you, you public sector folks, my heart bleeds for you. It truly does. And I think that when your individual departments see what this is all about and their personal stake in this, I think you will get buy-in. I have had a lot of success getting buy-in when you show people what it's doing to them. And understand, most people in the audience are on psychiatric medications as we speak. And I'm not saying psychiatric medications are bad. I'm saying, why would you not want to improve your situation? You know, if I'd have listened to my doctors, I'd be on a handful of psychiatric medications for the rest of my life. And that just is not true now. Okay, so maybe you don't need as much medication. Maybe you don't need any medication at all. Maybe you're not on the right medication. So honestly, we are heading into a crisis mode in this country. And for whatever time I've got left on this earth, I really, truly want to see that we're doing a better job than what we've been doing for the last 50 years. Okay, and I want you to impart this to your people. So I'll upload this. I'll send you the link to it and forward it to anybody you want. And anybody else who wants to sit in on these, everybody is welcome there. And we do these at noon, so it fits in really well with the folks out in California, which we've got a couple of you folks in Colorado here today. So we've got to start doing something because what we're doing right now isn't working. All right. Hey, thank you. Thank you so much to everybody. And everybody take care. And we got more fun stuff to think about. If you got questions, shoot them to me and we can start off next month with those questions. All right. Hey, everybody, take care. And I'm going to see you again soon.